Good afternoon, everybody. It's Mark Baber from Sony here, and we're going to be going live in just over 3 minutes on the Park Cameras Facebook Live page, where we're going to be talking to Jack Lodge, professional photographer, landscape photographer, using Sony gear. So we're going to be talking about shooting the seasons on Sony gear. We've got some fantastic images to go through and a chance to meet virtually Jack and talk to Jack and ask lots of questions. So if you're watching, good crowd at the moment, which is really good, so thank you for joining us. Tell us where you are, where you're watching this, if you're in the UK and Ireland or further afield. And like I said, if you've got any questions, get them ready. So we've got a great opportunity to talk to Jack and myself about Sony stuff just now, over 3 minutes. Hi, it's Mark from Sony again. If you're just joining us, just over a minute to go, and we'll be talking live to Jack Lodge about shooting the season on his Sony gear, landscape photography. Grab yourself that coffee and tea. We're going to be with you in just under a minute. So looking forward to virtually meeting you all. Tell us where you are. If you've got lots of questions, here's your chance to talk to Alpha creator, professional photographer Jack Lodge. Good afternoon and welcome to the Facebook Live page of Park Cameras. My name is Mark Baber and I'm from Sony. I'm the Technical Marketing Manager here in the UK and Ireland for what we call our photo channel. Now, in the last year, as you can imagine, all of you, with the COVID pandemic, we've been bringing to you a lot of live webinars, and kind of interviews and product reviews online. And this time around, this week, we've got Sony Week with Park Cameras, and we're bringing you webinars. We had a webinar yesterday with Thomas Lovelock. We've got a webinar tomorrow as well with Ian Monroe and Gez Williams from Skink Creative. And today we've got professional landscape photographer Jack Lodge. Now, before we go to Jack, I'd just like to say, if you've got any questions, here we go. We've got some people already saying hello. Jack is in the wings. He's waving to me. He's desperate to come on and talk to to you guys. We've got Darwin from Alberta in Canada, so welcome. This is the great thing about these webinars. We are global with this, so thank you very much for joining us, Darwin. Sue's from Epsom in Surrey, so a bit more local. Welcome, Sue. So if you're online and you're watching this live, please let us know where you're from. It would be really good to bring you into the webinar, and of course a great opportunity to ask questions to both Jack obviously and myself if there's any Sony questions as well. Now our colleague from Park Cameras is in the wings as well. He's in the comment sections. We'll answer any Park Cameras questions, and he'll also bring up some information on the product as well. And stay with us as well, because if you are interested in purchasing a Sony product, we've got some fantastic offers coming up later on as well, which are exclusive to this webinar and exclusive to Sony Week with Park Cameras. We've got more people here. We've got Laurie from Kent. Hi, Laurie. Buddy from sunny Dorset, obviously close to where Jack's from. Ash from Haywards Heath. So pretty good. Thanks ever so much for letting us know where you are. We've got a really good crowd as well. So as I said, these webinars go live globally, and if you don't get a chance to watch this all the way through, don't worry, it will be recorded and embedded in the Facebook Live page for Park Cameras as well. So for those of you watching, my feed's going mad here. So we've got David from Tunbridge. I will get to you in a minute, Jack. Martin from Weymouth, Jason from Lincolnshire, Anne from Belgium. Hello, I got family in Belgium, so welcome. Bernard from Leeds, West Yorkshire. So great. Keep those coming. Fantastic. Thank you ever so much. These webinars do go live globally, and for those of you that are aware of Park Cameras and are Park Cameras customers, again, you're obviously welcome. Those of you not aware of Park Cameras, there's just a little bit of information about Park Cameras for you. Now, I've worked with Park Cameras for a number of years, both with Sony and Panasonic. I used to work for them for many years, and when I read out what's on this screen, I sincerely am honest in telling you that the guys at Panasonic, the guys at Park Cameras are fantastic to work with, from the owner, the store manager, the staff, everyone that works for Park Cameras. Real passionate photography-minded people, superb at customer service, and it says here, very highest standards of customer service while offering a wide range of products at competitive low prices. I totally support them on that. They are a Sony specialist retailer, and they have just refreshed their website as well. So please visit parkcameras.com, where you'll find a lot better navigation, well set out website, especially if you're looking for Sony gear. And they have 2 stores, one in central London, one in Burgess Hill, and I do understand with the COVID guidelines in the UK that are being relaxed as we speak, on Monday next week, Burgess Hill will be reopening. And they're celebrating their 50th year, 1971, special year for me, because it was the same year I was born. Anyway, moving on from my you could probably guess how old I am, but there we go. More people, Carolyn from Lincoln, Jane from Holy Trinity, Hurstpierpoint, not sure where that is, but sounds great. Maureen from Horsham, Rachel from the Cotswolds. So thank you guys. Any questions, please, here's a chance to ask both myself and Jack. Without further ado, let's bring him in. Good afternoon, Jack. How are you?
Hey everyone, how are you all doing? Thanks for having me, Mark. I'm really excited to talk to you today and talk through some of my photos and talk all about Sony gear. So I'm really looking forward to this.
Thank you for doing this, because I know you've put a lot of work and effort into this. We've got some, exclusive look at your work, how you go about. We're going to talk about absolutely everything about landscape photography that you're going to let the viewers into as well. And we're going to see some stunning imagery. I know we've got some videos as well that we're going to show, which gives a bit of an insight of how you've been able to achieve some of these images. And again, thank you for your time for doing this. So for those of you, you've got a lot of fans watching you as well. So we've got the audience has gone right up now, which is great. So
great
more so because they want to listen to you and see you, not me. But look, for those of you though watching, and those that are watching and are not aware of you, give the audience a little bit of an insight about who you are, how you started, how you discovered going into landscape photography, how you got to Sony gear, what's in your kit bag, that kind of stuff. So I'll just give you the floor for a few minutes.
No worries. Well, thanks everyone for coming in. Most of you probably know me from social media. Started my landscape photography journey probably in 2016, but I actually started photography back at university. I did an architecture degree at the Arts University, Bournemouth. Dorset through and through, so always in Dorset. But so I did that, and I actually got a little Canon 100D, I think it was called, at university, because it's very small. I could put it in my bag. And yeah, I just started doing street photography, travel photography around Berlin, Barcelona, And then I just started discovering landscapes, and because I love walking, I love the outdoors. So I graduated in 2015 and decided to make the jump, and I bought a Sony A7 Mark II, and kind of like a little graduation present to get out there a little bit more and document some more things. And then from 2016, I took it really seriously, started a Facebook page, loved being able to share what I could witness with everyone. I love just communicating with everyone on there. And then I just got an absolute obsession for landscapes, and I haven't stopped since. So it was a kind of quick journey. I've only been there for about 4 years, so I still got so much to learn. But I feel like every time I go out, there's something new I pick up, and I just love it.
Now, we'll talk about this later, but where I'll pull up your website as well, but you're pretty active on social as well, especially Instagram. So what's your Instagram handle that people can start looking at that now?
So everyone wants to, so that's just Jack Lodge Photography. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, also my website as well, like Mark mentioned, which is very kind of you. I kind of made the jump to Sony then back in 2016, and then Mark, as you know, I came and saw you at the photography show 2 years ago now, and you convinced me to go for the R3 for my printing, because you did. And you saw I got into printing a lot more, so I've made kind of most of the resolution for my R3, and I haven't looked back since.
That's good, and I think that's a good point to kind of bring this in. This is something we added in quite late just now, actually. But for those of you watching that you're not aware of where the R series that Jack uses, so Jack uses the A7R3, and it sits in the kind of where we call this marketing piece of literature here, masters of resolution. So it's the high resolution camera that you find within the range. So we have the A7R2, the A7R3, and then that was superseded last year with the A7R4. We won't go into tech details, but there are lots of information on the Park Cameras website, and I know that Park Cameras will bring up the relevant information in the comments if you want to have a look in more detail. Like I said, do stay to the end, because there's some amazing offers, especially if you're looking to trade something in, and also money off and lenses and stuff like that. But the A7R series is, it's for commercial, it's for wildlife, believe it or not, because we'll talk about it a bit later about the crop mode. But it's high resolution landscape photography, absolutely perfect for this, and you can understand when you see Jack's images why this is the level of detail. I won't give too much away because I'm so excited to see. We did a test yesterday and saw some of these images for the first time, and I'm probably more buzzing than you are, mate. So this is just really good to see this. So like I said, if you've got any questions, somebody called Ben Kapur, somebody he's obviously shouting online for you. Laurie, lovely gallery on Instagram. So Park Cameras have put your Instagram page up. Do check the images out, all shot on Sony, and fantastic images to look at. So let's get stuck in. So we're going to bring up some of Jack's images here. There's quite a few, and we're going to bring ourselves.
I'll try not to bore you. I'll just go for a few stories. So I'm not going to keep you for too long. Don't worry.
So Jack, I'll give you the floor here, but like I said, I'll bring in questions when we can. I've got some questions for you as well, but talk us through your work.
Yeah, no worries. So I've titled this kind of Shooting the Seasons. I absolutely love being able to capture different moments in time throughout the year, and I like waiting for them as well. So going and scouting locations, and this being one of them, is very close to my home. It's a place called Moor Critchell in Dorset, and I used to go loads when I was younger, and I've been there probably more since with a camera. And very fortunately, at the start of the year, back in January, we got some hoarfrost, and it was incredible. I've never seen anything like it. The trees froze over. We had a fresh layering of snow, and on this morning we actually had some fog as well. So we had everything that I dream of when I'm shooting landscapes in this one photo. And if we go to the next slide, it's a real big contrast between winter and autumn. But what's beautiful about it is I think they're just as good as each other in terms of selling the scene. And there's one simple road with some incredible beech trees, with autumn leaves or no leaves, and I just think it's a really nice place to return to. And I've also been in spring, so on my next image I've got some in spring, and we actually kind of I go for the same conditions. Mist and fog get me so excited because it's a really nice natural diffusion of the light, and you get this lovely side light on those trunks, and the green one on the left you can see is slightly twisted, and you only see that when you get the light and the fog going on there. But what's interesting about this is I love shooting at longer focal ranges when I'm shooting trees. So I use this is kind of my go-to lens, which is the 24-105 Sony f4. and I
Want to bring
absolutely
that up
love
again,
it.
Jack?
Yeah, of course. There we go.
There
So
you go.
that's kind of my go-to lens for any woodland scenes, and I absolutely adore it because I can go in at 24 and then I can crop in all the way at 105, like the one on the left, and it just gives some really nice compression. The only thing you've got to be careful of when you're shooting scenes like this is separation. So you'll see I've very carefully lined the trees up so that there's no overlapping in the background. It's really hard to do. You're
Yeah,
moving sometimes like
it
a little
becomes
inch,
quite
but
become quite
yeah,
confusing otherwise, wouldn't it? Yeah, I get that. I see
it
that now.
does. Yeah.
Okay, very good. And the 24 to 105 for those again who are not watching. I know park cameras are bringing this up, but f4 as well. So okay, it's not the sharpest or the brightest, say compared to a G Master, but actually I have to say that it's pretty damn close. And f4, perfect. Narrow
it's so
aperture
sharp.
for landscape
It's
as well.
fantastic.
Superb.
Yeah,
Superb.
and light. It's very light as well.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
and yeah.
sorry, Mark. Go on.
No, you carry on, mate. Go for it.
Oh, okay. So this image here, I wanted to show you because it was more of a scouting mission. I end up scouting probably half the time than I do actually photographing at sunrise or sunset. So I went over to Wind Green, and obviously Wind Green is the little bit of trees just off on the left center of the frame. And I've never photographed actually on Wind Green. I've just photographed it from afar with the rolling hills. But the beauty of this was it's handheld, no tripod. The image stabilization on the Sony is incredible for that. And there's no filters. It was all the dynamic range of the camera. And it allowed me to pinpoint this location on maps and then go back months and months later. This was back 2019, this shot was taken. And if we go over to the next one, I was waiting for something special and something different. So when we got the hoarfrost, I was like, okay, I know exactly where to go. And it's really good for landscape photography to have these places in the back of your mind to be able to
Jack,
visit.
should we play the video first before we look?
Hello everyone, my name's Jack Lodge. I'm a landscape photographer from Dorset, and today you join me for probably some of the best winter conditions I've actually ever seen. We are over at Wind Green on the Dorset kind of Wiltshire border, and we've got the morning light piercing through the thick fog, and the clump of trees at Wind Green are looking phenomenal. We actually had loads of hoarfrost over the night, which was obviously from the fog and the big drop in temperatures. We went down to -3, -4, and everything is completely frozen. I'll come and show you now. It's absolutely beautiful, and I'm just trying to do it justice with the camera. Hope I can get something just to do this scene justice, because it really is breathtaking with the morning light. Fingers crossed. I'll come back over to the camera now. It's absolutely Baltic. And in terms of the camera settings, it's really simple. Lowest ISO I can go, f8 because it's the sharpest aperture on this lens, and then a shutter speed of what it needs to be, and then I'm bracketing just to make sure I get all of the dynamic range. It really is beautiful, and in my eyes this is what winter is all about. Magical. Have a lovely one, guys, and take care. Bye for now.
Oh, let's have a look at that image, because when you showed me this, I was really impressed. There we go. So there we go. Fantastic image. Look at that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's probably one of my favorites. The conditions were just so phenomenal. I didn't have to do anything. I just rocked up because I've scouted it before. I knew roughly where to stand to kind of get the biggest kind of like wow factor from the shape of the trees. And I just put the tripod down. The settings were whatever they needed to be. I know f8 on that lens is spot on. So focus on the trees, and that was it. In the end, I did bracket. I did mention I bracketed, but I didn't need to use any files. I just used the perfectly exposed image, and that was it. I just brought down the highlights, brought up the shadows, and
we discussed this yesterday. I mean, this is an amazing image, and stuff that's right on our doorstep. But do you see this? The day before, are you thinking, right, that's the image I want? And okay, you're fortunate with the weather here, but is that important as well? So weather, did you foresee that this could potentially be the image you get? You've got it in your mind, and there, wow, you're greeted by. Is it luck, or is it good planning?
It's both. It's both. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't a bit of luck. It is definitely both. But I like to always envisage a place in certain seasons, and I've shot this composition in autumn and spring, but I didn't have any light. And it was nothing special, so I didn't share it. It just stayed on the hard drive, like probably 60% of my images do. But I just knew when I went there. When I arrived, I couldn't see anything. I couldn't see the hoarfrost. I walked in. I've actually got a picture on my Instagram of the trees inside, because I simply couldn't see it from outside. And about an hour or two, I think it was an hour and a half after sunrise, I walked back out, and the sun pierced through. So it's luck, and then it's also being like persistent. It's really important to just stay longer, be patient, and sometimes you can witness something pretty special.
Super. Let's move on to this one.
Yeah, very similar story with this one as well. It was a hoarfrosty morning over in Wimborne. I'm very local to this place. It's about a 5-minute drive, and I've just never seen it like it before. I've seen it with leaves, and I kind of challenged myself this year to stay local with obviously everything that's gone on. I wanted to stay really local and just appreciate what I live around. So I go here and walk my dog all the time, but I've never seen it with a sky like this, and that was luck. This was taken probably 2 or 3 minutes after sunrise. It's just burning on the horizon, but I was shooting close-up, intimate shots of the trees, and then just happened to see the sky explode. So I quickly ran into the middle of the field. This was the 24-105 again, because it's so practical. Set up nice and wide, and just went away and shot with that.
In relation to the colours, obviously the A7R4, A7R3, etc., the renowned for dynamic range. Is there much editing on this, or is this pretty much close to what you see? Because you obviously can pull quite a lot out in. It's pretty spot on. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I brought out a lot in the shadows, just because the sky was so bright. Every time you point towards the sun, the sky is always going to be overexposed on your camera, because it can't capture dynamic range like your eyes. Even though there's 15 stops on the R3, it's still not enough. So some people use graduated filters. I tend to bracket, simply because with trees and edges like that, using a graduated filter, you're going to get a black line going across them. So that was just a 2 exposure bracket, blended using luminosity masks. And in terms of colors, I think I actually decreased the saturation by about -10.
Wow.
And that was it, really. A bit of white balance. White balance is important with snow. You don't want the snow to look too blue. So I sometimes have to warm up the white balance a little bit.
Somebody's asked a question. It's Laurie. Laurie O'Keefe says, what tripod are you using? That's one of the questions I was going to ask. So thank you, Laurie, for jumping in there.
Brilliant.
I
use a Gitzo. That's the tripod I use. GT, you're testing me now. GT3543 XLS. That's the one.
There we go.
And it's simply because I'm quite tall. I'm 6'3", so 6'2" really, but with walking shoes on 6'3". And then I need like the 2 meter height of the XLS tripod, just so it's always eye level. And then especially when I'm on hillsides, I like to have the extra height.
Of course, the next slide,
and this was
printing.
Going through the print.
Print is obviously very important to you as well.
Lockdown. Yeah, I mean, only since lockdown I really started doing it myself, and really appreciating what it's about. So this was on a photo speed fine art paper. It's called Platinum Etching, and it's part of my new box set that I've released. So I'm going to be doing box sets every season, and they come with 3 A4 prints, and the texture really works great for snow. So I just thought I'd show this, because you can see a little bit of texture in the paper, and also how it makes the snow pop off the screen as well.
With
the R3, obviously A4 is tiny, but
I was going to say, we've done physical workshops in the past, obviously before COVID, doing landscape and so on, and we've worked with PhotoSpeed a number of times, and we've tried to recreate an end-to-end solution. So you've got you discover the product, the camera, hands-on, you discover the tips and tricks from the ambassador or the photographer working with, and then you are able to print it at the end. And it really brought home to me when we were doing that how important print is, especially when you've got this level of detail. I know we come onto that in more detail a bit later, but it's good to see you've included that. So right, what's going on here?
Thank you. This one was just a little tip for everyone that's watching. Be very patient. So this was actually taken 2 minutes apart, believe it or not. Same conditions, the same fog, the same composition, pretty much the same camera settings. But what was missing was the light. So by waiting for the light to come, it completely changed the scene, makes it 3D, makes it pop. And during spring especially, having some nice side light is key. So I just thought it was nice to show you guys kind of how important light is in landscape photography and how it can make a big difference to the scene in front of you. And the next image shows that as well. And it's more showing the composition of the tree branches. I think it's really important to have composition is a hard one because you obviously got like rule of thirds and things like that. But I also think it's about drawing someone's eye into a scene. So when it comes to spring and the greens and the vibrant colors you've got from all the fresh leaves, it's nice to have like a branch coming in through the image. And I love this one because the tree's just fantastic. This is over at Badbury Rings, and it's just I just think it's a really nice composition, but I think the light makes it miles better. So without light, this image would be very flat.
Yeah, I've noticed a lot so far. You use, I suppose, leading lines, perspective. It's really, it draws you in, doesn't it? It's got a lot of depth in that. But I've noticed there's no people. So is that deliberate? You don't really use people in your images? Yeah, there's nobody.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's just at that time in the morning or evening, there's nobody about, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, well, normally there's loads of cars down this road, but this was probably taken about 5:30 in the morning, but not many people. And then I'm just going into an image which is talking more about summer, because sometimes a lot of the time in the summer, it's a bit kind of deflating because there's just clear blue skies and there's not much going on. But when you've got the heather coming out, there's so much color. And there's nothing done to this file in terms of color or saturation. It's all left. It's mainly highlights. My highlights were almost blown out, actually. They're pushed as far as they are, and then the shadows recovered. But it's just showing, by having a main subject at the bottom with a bit of color, orange, greens, amongst some purple heather, it's really good to look out for different colors. And I just thought it was nice to show what you can capture in different seasons, especially when it comes to spring. And the next slide, it just shows the next morning, actually. So same location, just a little bit further back this time, and shooting a little wider. And it's just shooting into the sun, which I don't do as much now. I've kind of moved away from shooting into the sun. I prefer the side light. But this is just showing one single frame, because the sun was so low, I could just expose my highlights, and the R3 with the dynamic range, I could just use a digital graduated filter in Lightroom and just bring that up in the foreground. This was before I learned luminosity masks and bracketing. And this is exactly the same situation. These two photos, this was taken very early morning during blue hour, no light. And then the next photo shows what happens as soon as the light comes. You get all the light coming through the trees, you get more drama, and you get that 3D pop that I really look for in my photography. And this was a big image. So this was I can't remember now, 42 megapixels, and it was a 3x2, but cropped 16:9. So this wasn't a pano, but the next image, well, 3 images, sorry, show the 100% crops of just one single file. So I thought that was quite a good example to show you guys. When I come to printing, that's why I choose a bigger megapixel camera, because it really helps to bring out all those details.
When I saw this yesterday, I know that the cameras, obviously working with them quite frequently, are good at resolution, and I'm like you at lockdown. I haven't really left my house at all because of restrictions. So most of my photographs I've taken of my cat, my dog, my kids, zooming in on the eye. But this really proves, I mean, even, on a, I know Facebook will compress this, but even the middle image with the building in the background, but the level of detail, you then really appreciate as a Sony employee. I use this kit all the time, and I suppose we take it for granted. You pick one up and use it, but actually, when you see things like this, you realise the real quality, the detail in it, and
it's mind blowing.
Thank you for breaking. Thank you for breaking that down, because it really explains it. So it's not just the dynamic range and so on. It's that level of detail you get, and of course with the A7R4, the improvements have been made on the sensor. That's now 60 million pixels. So. You're gonna have to upgrade, mate, and see if you can push it.
I know, you are tempting me. Yeah, it is very tempting. This was kind of the answer, kind of the tripod question. So this is like a little behind the scenes. If any of you guys are used to my Facebook, you'll see I'm always doing a Facebook Live, and half the time I'm running around overexcited, and I sound so silly, but I'm just in the moment. But I just thought I'd show you this because the iPhone that I took this on, obviously, has HDR'd the scene, so the sky's pretty much accurate to what it was. But this is just a little method that I use quite a lot of the time using my camera settings. I'll always expose to the right with a scene like this. With the sky not doing much in that image, it actually was a bit distracting if I tried to bring it down. So on the final image, which is the next slide, you'll see that I actually overexposed the sky, and it brought out this foggy atmospheric look. And it's just a little trick I use to bring some 3D drama to an image. And obviously I've got all the soft light on the timber that was the main image, the main part of the image, sorry, and then all the fresh green leaves that happen at this time of year. And I can't wait. I love this little spot. It's Eye Bridge in Wimborne. And as soon as these leaves come out in a few weeks, I'm going to be all over it again. And the next image shows actually the difference between different greens and different weathers, because this is taken in winter. This was on a frosty morning. We did have an interesting sky this time, so this is exposed for both. So it's literally what I saw with my eyes. But we've got darker greens in the trees, hardly any leaves left, but we've got the texture in the bark as well. And I just thought it's quite cool to flip between the two, and it's interesting. And I really recommend everyone to return to the same location and different weather, different seasons. Just see how it performs and see what it's like, because you'll see different things each time. And the same things, literally, I just moved a little bit to the left, just panned the camera around. I didn't even move the tripod from the previous scene. And this was the light coming across the river and the reflections. I think a little tip for everyone, I think it's very hard sometimes to make your skies and reflections work together. So always, naturally, reflections will be darker than a bright sky, okay? So on this instance, I could have brought down the highlights in the sky a little more, but it wouldn't reflect the actual scene. But what it is showing is the spring greens. And the next image goes to, I don't know, 3-4 months later in the summer. And look at the difference in the greens. We've got dark greens. And it depends what you want to look for in an image, but I love the fresh greens. So spring right now, give it a few weeks, get on out there, because the greens are very different to what they'll be in about 3-4 months time. And it just shows how different it can make an image look. This one gets a little interesting. So this was actually quite recent. Mark, you pestered me, didn't you, when you saw my live video? You're like, you got to put that in the presentation.
No, I said I hope you're putting it in the presentation, because what we're going to show next is just proves the point. I think again, yeah. I mean, I know where this is, and I know you'll share that in a second. But I've not really seen it in this light, and you know, to see what you've done to it is, again, because obviously who's behind the camera, and you're thinking it, and you know, you're planning it, but also the camera from a text perspective is obviously bringing the best out of what you can do. So shall I play the video?
Yeah, play the video. Yeah,
I'll play the video. Just hang on a second.
Good morning. You join me today at Corfe Castle in some of the best conditions I've ever seen. It's simply incredible. Just shooting with the 24-105, just after 50 mil, and it's speechless. I don't know what to say. It's a really simple setup. F8, ISO 100, and then my shutter speed, whatever it needs to be. And just doing a 2-stop bracket with 3 shots. I'm exposing just for the center, just off center, and then 2-second timer. And there we go. No graduated filters today, just using the dynamic range of the camera. And we're capturing all of that detail in the sky and all of that mist in the foreground. And it really is some of the best conditions I've ever seen in Corfe Castle. Absolutely beautiful.
There we go. And let's check out the next
It was a pretty
images, because
epic
they really are
morning.
stunning.
Yeah, so that's the result from that video, and the previous one was during blue hour. So I always like to get to a location really early, so an hour before sunrise at least. And then I just waited for the sun, and then after my live video that went out across Facebook, this was the final result. And I just loved how the mist was going through the castle. Obviously, it's Corfe Castle in Dorset, if no one knows where it is. But yeah, some of the best conditions I've ever seen. And it was just a little image to show you guys it's okay to overexpose the sun. I mean, you're never going to be able to bring the highlights down from the sun. And this image here is a prime example of how you can bring out so much detail, because this is a raw file. That's untouched. That's just straight out of the camera. But because I wanted to show you how the dynamic range of the Sony benefits me in the field sometimes if I'm not bracketing, the next image shows once I brought out the shadows. And it looks like in there all the stone was gone, but it's not. The camera's captured all that detail in the stone, even some of the sheep on the hill. And it's mind-blowing how much detail these cameras capture. Yeah, I couldn't be without it, to be honest. So for social media and everything, that's all I'll use. And if I'm printing big, the noise is fine and the shadows, it's usable. And if I was going any bigger than a meter, I'd just bracket my exposures and use that. This is a very prime example of what will be coming up very soon. So we're all going to be looking forward to poppy season. It's in Dorset. It's chaos. Everyone wants a bit of the poppies. But this was another example of returning to the same location again and again. This was in the middle of the day on a scouting trip, but that's the next morning. And I got the light perfectly on the castle because I knew where the sun was going to be. But what I didn't expect was that mist going across the top of the church, and then all the clouds lighting up, and everything just came together. So it's just about being persistent and going to same locations multiple times. This is a very similar example to the Corfe Castle image. One frame, that's a raw file, and then the next image is showing all the detail captured in the hillside, and it's showing all the light once you bring that out in processing. And that's how you will see it with your eyes. So don't be scared to process your images. It's not too much. It's just replicating what you see with your eyes at the time. Your camera will never ever balance them without a graduated filter or bracketing.
So we've got some kind of, I think it's panoramic stuff coming next. So we've got a short video to play again. And then what we're going to do before we go into that more detail, there's no questions at the moment. We've still got a very good crowd, Jack. So I'm just going to say to the audience now, as you're watching, if you've got any questions specific to Jack and his work or any Sony stuff, then please let us know. Here's your chance to get your question in. Whilst we've probably still got just under half an hour to go. So yeah, please ask any questions whilst we're live. So I'm just going to play this third movie that we've got, and then maybe you could explain a little bit more about how you've managed to achieve this.
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. You join me over in Dorset, in the North Dorset Hills, and we've got some incredible conditions going on right now. We've got a cloud inversion, we've got the belt of Venus with the Earth shadow, and then we've got a full snow moon setting, and it's all going off. Composition wise, it's really simple. I'm just doing a full panorama using the Sony a7R III with the signal 100 to 400 at 100mm, and I'm just panoing the whole scene so that I can merge it later on in post-processing, because I think it's going to be a beautiful morning and I don't want to miss anything. So panorama is probably the best thing to do here, and then when the sun rises I can zoom in to little aspects and crop right in.
And then the following images is what you did. So I'm just going to take myself out here, and here we go.
Yeah, that's the result of the panorama. And sometimes you want to get everything in. Sometimes it's nice to focus on the details or shoot nice and wide. But on this occasion, 100mm, 11 shots I did in the end for this. No bracketing again, all just single files. And the detail captured is mind blowing. I could print this probably 4 meters wide. It's huge. That's 100% crop on the church, and you can see in the Lightroom top there with the previous little red box. I don't know if you'll see it on Facebook, but that's how far zoomed in you are to this image. And the next slide shows the moon at 100% and all the detail captured in there. That's just bringing the highlights a little bit down. You can see on the histogram nothing's clipping. I like to go for a nice bright image a lot of the time, so the histogram's normally over to the right a little bit, but detail is phenomenal. And I'm actually going to get this one printed pretty big soon to see how it comes out. This is a little trick for you guys. I don't know how many of you use it. It's very popular for wildlife photography, but on the R3, or I think all the Sony cameras, Mark, if you're going to have to correct me, but they all have a crop mode kind of preview. And what that's going to do is, I think on the R3, it makes 18 megapixel file. You'll have to correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're absolutely right.
Is it?
You can, yeah, because when we're doing, we've done trade shows in the past, and 200 events a year, physical events, we get to see a lot of people and stuff, and yeah, and obviously now online, but hopefully when we get back to those, a lot of people we meet say, oh, I won't bother with that, I'll crop outside a camera. I totally get that, I understand that, but the fact is you can do it. So on a 42 million pixel, it's 18, and I'll have to correct myself later if I'm wrong, but on the 60 I think it's 26. So
that's crazy.
But on the A7R Mark IV, actually, your autofocus is 100% coverage in APS-C, which is quite phenomenal. So that actually, and I know we're talking landscape here, but it's very appealing to wildlife. So it's almost like you've got this
Two
very
cameras in one.
specialized high. Yeah, well, I was just about to say you've got this high resolution camera which is very specialized for this type of work, but actually it's a considered purchase for wildlife photographers because you may not necessarily need to use the 60 million pixels. You can use the 26 with 100% coverage, and of course, 100 to 400 mil lens. The crop factor is 1.5, and that becomes a 200 to
200 to 600.
600,
which is crazy,
with 26 million pixels, or 18 on an A7R3. So it's without having to maybe get another lens out. Of course, you want to have as many lenses as you got, but the fact is you may not have that, so you can use your existing lens and crop in. If you did it on an A7S version, I showed you the chart earlier, then you're going to go from 12 million to 5, which it's fine, you can still use it. And on an A7 III, for those of you that may have that camera or looking at it, you go from 24 to 10. So again, you've still got a lot of pixels to move about with. But if you want to gain that additional resolution and signal to noise ratio in low light capabilities, then it's worth looking at an A7R camera.
Yeah, and that's why I used it for this, because at the time I didn't have a 100 to 400, but again, I was at home. This is Wimborne, Minster, and I really wanted to crop in. The ground was a bit too distracting, so all I did was I programmed it to my bottom right. I think it's C4, and I just press that, and it does my 1.5 crop factor, and the next image shows the same image, but with that, and then just a letterbox crop, and it just changes the scene completely. I don't know if Facebook's going to pick it up, but you can see some sheep in the mist, and the detail in all of the church is kept, all the Minster, is kept, and it's just really useful. I've then since gone back with my 100 to 400 and taken the same image, but at 42 megapixels. And this was again in winter, just showing that actually go to all these places in different seasons. Make sure you visit in winter and spring and autumn, see what happens, because with the frost, it's phenomenal. And the next image actually shows a sunset. I've never shot sunset here before. Oh, sorry, no, it's not. I'm going ahead. This is at night. So this is, again, completely different. I was driving home. I can't remember where I was from, probably from the beach or something. And the lights were on at the Minster. And I was like, what? I've never seen that before. So I went there at about 2 in the morning and captured them on with some early mist. And the sun was just peeking through and creating this lovely little ribbon of cloud that was catching the colour really early on.
Do you camp out at all? Or you literally getting up at
I'm an early
that
bird.
silly hour? But I mean, it's worth it because obviously you're not normally seeing images like this. So I get it.
Waking up early is my best tip. I think I'm obsessed with sunrise. So the minute is about 4 o'clock. I think I start. So tomorrow is supposed to be nice. I'm up again at 4 in the morning. But yeah, it's an early one. But you see things you don't normally see. And I think that's the beauty of it. And I love being able to share that with people that can't get out at that time. I love it. And then the next image is the one I was talking about previously, but I got it wrong, is sunset. And I've never shot sunset here before. I was just looking out my window and the clouds were going like this sepia orange. And I was like, whoa, what's going on? And I knew in my head instantly, the Minster will look cool because you've got some side lights in winter. It was just before the winter leaves all went, so there's still some colour, and it's just phenomenal. Autumn is also one of my favourite seasons. Autumn and spring, the two, very hard to choose between the two. But again, exposing for the right, getting the nice highlights, capturing all the detail in the trees. And this image is special to me because it was one of the first ones I started printing, just because I like the texture and all the color in the leaves. So the kind guys at Photo Speed hooked me up with some test packs, and I just went crazy. I printed on about 40 of their papers and just tested each single one. And I've got this little loop that I'm obsessed with. If you follow me on Instagram, I'm sorry for the spam. You've probably seen it many times, but I think we've got a little video now which is just going to show you the beauty of this sensor and how much it picks up when you print.
Yeah, I've not used one of these before, and when you show me this clip, which we're going to share with the audience now, it really does bring to life I suppose what we've covered here with the cameras, the resolution, the high dynamic range, the detail, and then to see it in print. I can't wait till once we can physically meet and pick one of these up in the hand and actually see it. But hopefully what we're going to show you here will give you an idea. What I'm going to do, Jack, is I'm just going to pause the video and then unmute us so that you can talk over it. So just hold on a second. Okay, there we go. So I can play that again.
Fantastic.
So tell us what's going on. So
yeah, so this is 10 times loop.
It's just amazing.
It's crazy, isn't it? This was on one of my favorite papers. It's NST Bright White. Check it out because it's phenomenal, and you can see there it's captured all the detail in every single leaf. You can see all the dark bits of the leaves, and bear in mind this is only an A4 sheet of paper, but you're zoomed in at 10 times, so you can imagine this being A1, and that's what you're going to see when you put your face up to it. It's just a great way of seeing an image, and I think if none of you have printed your work, I'd highly recommend it because it's like the end of the process. Seeing it in print makes you feel like you're back there, and I think it's so important. Yeah, check it out because the papers are fantastic and they all give different kind of feedback on each image. So each image I print on will be a different paper. I have about 3 that I choose between for each images.
Look, that's the final video of, and we've just got a few images left, but thank you for doing that because again, this is, we talked about putting this together. Like I do with all the photographers we work with, we put a brief together, and you've just taken it a little bit further by trying to recreate what we would do if we were physically in front of somebody trying to show it. So that really, that's your work, Jack. So thank you ever so much for sharing that with us.
Pleasure.
It's given me some ideas for other things as well. So let's move on.
Yes, no problem. So this is still in Dorset. This is Badbury Rings, the little clump of trees at Beach Avenue. And this was at the height of summer, pretty much a few weeks before peak for the summer crops. And I just loved the fields of green. It reminds me of that Windows XP wallpaper kind of vibe with the blue sky, fluffy white clouds. But I wanted to go back, and I went back about 3 weeks later, and it turned into, I'm pretty sure it's wheat. Please correct me if I'm wrong. If anyone knows, let us know down in the comments. But it was incredible because it brought out all these yellows, and then we had mammatus clouds and the same clump of trees there, and it just went crazy. And that's why I love shooting locations. It's time and time again. And this is another prime example. Knowlton Church, very local to me. But this was taken at 1 a.m. We had noctilucent clouds going across, and then that is a sunset. So you get so many different images from the same location. And then I went back in the mist, and we had the frost. We had the frost from back in January after the wind green picture. So on the way back home, went back and captured this very white, wintry scene. And yeah, it's nice to visit different locations, but it's also good to go back to the same locations and get them in different conditions. The church is there on the middle left, but I was just scouting from further afield, and a double rainbow just appeared. And there's no planning there, guys. Honestly, that's just pure luck. I didn't know that was going to happen. I just knew it was going to rain, and there was a gap in the sky, maybe for the sun to peek through. So I just sat and waited and got very wet. This is a very special image to me. Incredible bluebell woods, and I thought I'd show you guys the raw file because some people don't like showing the raws, but I'm okay showing this because this is very flat, and it's what the camera picks up in the raw file, and that's the final process image. That's what I saw in the morning. If you go on my Facebook, Instagram, or even BBC Springwatch, we did a little feature that morning, and in the video you can see all of the color, and it was mind-blowing. This again is a big, I think it's a 9-shot pano. So I've actually printed this with my good friend Andy. He's got a print shop in Swanage, and we printed it at 1.5 meters. And it actually went out to Utah in America to a lovely couple that have been so supportive of me. And yeah, it's framed on their lounge wall now, which blows my mind that people want to see my work in their lounge. But it's like the biggest compliment. But yeah, that was just my little presentation talking you through the seasons and why I think it's really important to pay attention to that when you're getting into landscape photography.
Jack, thank you ever so much for sharing that with us. It's a lot of work goes into that, not just creating the content, but putting this together as well. So I really appreciate that, and thank you again to Park Cameras for supporting. We do have some questions, so before we go into the last part of the webinar, we're right on time as well, which is great. So Dave Fisher says, "Stunning work, Jack. Have I understood you correctly? And you mainly shoot without grads and just either bracket or expose to the sky and then recover in post. Any particular reason why you do that?"
Yeah, that is correct. It's mainly because I used to use grads a lot. So I used to I'm an ambassador for Case, and I use the graduated filters. But sometimes when you're shooting into the sun, it's very hard to kind of get away from glare or things like that, especially when you're shooting on the sea. So in the end, you can, with these modern day cameras, you don't really need graduated filters. You can do it a lot with one file. And if I know an image is going to be pushed a bit too much, I'll bracket, and then I'll use luminosity masks to bring in the highlights back into the sky. And that means there'll be no noise in my shadows at all. And I can print it nice and big without any noise. So yeah, I'll use luminosity masks, or I'll use one image, and I'll just process it by bringing out the shadows or dropping the highlights.
Thank you, Dave Fisher, for that. There's lots of comments on here, so when we finish, Jack, you can go through this. That there's too many to talking about. They're all good. They're all about your images and stuff. But I'm just picking out the ones. So Patricia Catley or Catley, the Wimborne Minster shots. Do you take them from the road or actually in the field?
No, road. So they're not as glorious as you think. I'm standing on the edge of the A31, which is very noisy at that time in the morning. And because I got the taller tripod, I'm actually over the hedges. So I'm shooting over a hedge into the field. The landowner has contacted me and said he can show me some different spots and things. So I'm looking forward to that, which is very kind of him. But no, I don't like to trespass. So I'm just standing on the edge of the road over a hedge for those pictures.
Glad you said that. Jane Willis has asked, thank you, Jane. Thank you, Patricia, for the last one. Any advice in getting exposure right when printing? She's produced a recent... my questions again. A recent black and white print looked just right on the screen, but too dark when printed.
Yep, that's normal. Honestly, don't worry. That will happen. I'd first make sure you've got a calibrator or your monitor calibrated. But a lot of the time, I process for print. So what I'll do is I'll probably bump my exposure by 0.2, 0.3. Sometimes I'll mask that away from the highlights so it's not overexposing them. And then I'll do a curve adjustment and just bring out the shadows. And that will then make it look exactly the same as my screen. So don't worry, that's completely normal. Just make sure you're using custom ICC profiles that the guys at PhotoSpeed will do for you once you print. And just
Jack, are you happy for people to contact you via social as well if they
want
to talk?
Yeah, if anyone's got any questions,
okay, great. So
ping me a message on Facebook or Instagram.
If there's any questions there that you want to take a step further, then obviously contact Jack on his social channels.
Please do.
And Chaz Madge has backed up your answer there as well about calibrating screens. So thank you, Chaz. Ryan Smith loves your images. Which three? There's so many questions, mate. Which three lenses do you recommend for landscape photography, and what laptop do you recommend for editing? Careful. What laptop do you recommend for editing?
I'll start with the laptop one. That's easy. You can't see it, but I'm a bit of a nerd. So I built my own custom PC. I use, and just if anyone's know, I use an i7 64 gig of RAM, and then quite a beefy graphics card. I use a RTX 3070, if that means anything to anyone, but that's the computer specs, Marks. And then what was the other question? Sorry,
what three lenses would you recommend?
Really good one.
So I'll start it off. 16 to 35 f2.8 G Master.
Nice.
I would recommend that. Really good for landscape. That's
crazy sharp and it's perfect.
There we go.
Agree. What about your second one? What would you go for two?
Oh, no, the question's to you now. So you go, but you.
I'll fill that. You've used really easy.
So there we go. You've done the 24 to 105, which we highly recommend because you use that huge amount. Final lens for you.
100 to 400.
Maybe. What G Master? Good choice.
Yeah,
well
the
done.
G. Yeah, and I think that because the 70 to 200 is amazing. Don't get me wrong, but I much prefer the 200 to 400 range, and the G for that is just phenomenal. The sharpness, the ability of capturing all the detail. And then the crop mode is crazy. You can have 600mm if you want.
I was just about to say that additional focal length you can gain with just a press of a button, especially with high res.
It's crazy.
Sensors. It's superb for landscape. And then, so thank you for that. That was Ryan Smith. Thank you for the question. And then Philip Cole, last one. Where do you focus on a landscape to get such deep depth of field? Is it the same each time, or depends on location and conditions?
Second one. Yeah, it completely depends on the image, how close the lens is to the foreground. Sometimes you'll have to focus stack. Even shooting at f16, you won't get everything in. But a lot of the times, I always focus on a third into the frame if it's nice and wide. So I'll focus a third in using the grid. That's what I love about the Sony system is I always have my square grid on. And then I can just tap on the screen a third in. I use the small focus dot mark. Is that? I don't know the correct terminology, but it's a very small.
Yes, it's a spot area. Focus, or spot center. Focus. You can use, And
So I
again, on
use
these
spot
cameras,
focus, yeah.
you can use zone, you can use wide if you wanted to. I tend to use zone quite a lot. But the fact is, the great thing about the autofocus, which is very similar across the range, some new additions in the newer cameras, is you can tell where you want the camera to focus on, obviously, but you can control the sensitivity as well, and not just in stills but in video. So you're gaining even more control over it. Sorry, there is one final question, and that's Andy from Park Cameras, and he says,
Andy,
"What if you were on a desert island? Which is the one lens you would want to keep?"
24 to 105. No doubt.
There we go.
This thing has saved me so many times. Because if I want to shoot wide on a desert island and there's a nice pebble or something or a stone, I'll just do a pano crop. I'll just do a portrait pano at 24mm, and it'll get me 18mm. So best lens for the buck, I think.
Thank you for all your tips. I've got your website here. So for those of you that are looking for more information on Jack's website, there it is coming up here with the details at the bottom. And also his Instagram. And I think we got the Facebook one up there as well. There's Instagram and Facebook. So please visit Jack's photography. And if you need to ask him any more questions offline, please do. And please stay with us. We're just about to finish off, but we do have some fantastic offers. So we've mentioned a lot of lenses and kit there, and Park Cameras do have a number of offers this week for Sony Week. So please visit their website and go to the offers page. And there's a huge amount here. I won't go into too much detail, but if you're looking at buying lenses, 10% off. There are some lenses at the bottom here with little caveats which are excluded, which is the longer length and the recent lenses that we've just released. And we now have 63 lenses in our range as well, so 63 native lenses. If you're looking at buying the A1, then there's 5% off lenses with the A1, an additional year's warranty, which I'll come on to in a second, and some money off SD cards or a free battery. And I know that you're on the fence with this one. Sorry, you're nearly ready to go, aren't you, with this one? But you've got a £400 trade-in bonus. Now, give Park Cameras either a call or go online. Go and see them next week when they open in Burgess Hill. An additional year's warranty as well to come on to, and 5% off lenses. And that additional year's warranty is available actually on, if you've just bought something from Park Cameras or you're just about to buy, then please register your product here. You will get that extended warranty, which is worth £40, around that price, for free. And also check out this website, because you may be entitled to, if you want to get some money off lenses and you register your product, you might even be able to save yourself another £100 on top of that. And if we just come back to the two of us there, I think that is it. I'm looking at the time. 58 minutes. Look at that. Absolutely superb. So I'll just see any more comments here. There we go. Let's have a look. Jane says thanks. We answered Philip. Philip, thank you for the answer. Gorgeous work, Jack, from Gabriel. Anne Bayans, thank you for sharing your work. Sue Leathers, great session. Thanks, Jack. Thank you so much, Jack. Park Cameras, Laurie, well done. Dave Fisher, thanks, gents. Awesome. Maureen, great pictures, blah, blah, blah. And yes, so thank you ever so much. Thank you, Andy, Park Cameras, for all your support. Just to let you know that we have one more webinar to go tomorrow, and that's this one. It's with Ian Munro and Gez Williams from Skint Creative. We had a bit of a laugh this morning testing that. So once again, we've got an opportunity to find out more about our cameras and lenses. And this one's around unlocking your imagination and storytelling in a very different way than what you're normally used to. And it's just one of Ian's recent images. So 3 o'clock again tomorrow is our last webinar for the week. And, I can just say once again, thank you, Jack, for putting this together. Please stay online whilst we wrap this up. But thank you, the audience. Great attendance. Thank you ever so much. And again, thank you for Park Cameras for supporting. Have a great what's left of the day, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Thanks again, Jack. Really appreciate it.
Thank you all so much. No, pleasure. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Cheers. All the best.